Dr. Brett Spradlin here, Divine Design, Natural Health, and tonight we are talking about mental health. Everybody get crazy.
Oh, yeah.
See what I did there? All right, well, let's get right into this because we got to fly, folks. I've got a lot of stuff to get through. This is not going to be easy. You got to hang on tight. Ready? Let's do it. Current events. Here goes. Yes. Just in the last couple of weeks, that same corrupt industry that cannot even attempt to define life in the womb is trying to teach you about health. We talked about it last week, the current system, healthcare, government, medicine, pharmaceuticals. Never before has it been so obvious and out in the open that they are actively trying to destroy you. Next. 2.45 billion people worldwide have received this wonderful jab, which is so good for you, they have to force you into getting it. 200,000 in the U.S. have received it. These are numbers that came from very reliable sources, I would say, not just the Centers for Disease Creation or the World Health Disorganization. I've already seen more deaths since this thing rolled out than in my entire cumulative life combined. That's not just talking about being a doctor. That's just talking to other people and hearing about their relatives. It's crazy. Next. I'll let you read that one for yourself. With all the crap going on in the world, it's unbelievable. And that happened a year ago.
Wow.
Taliban's got a Twitter page. President of the U.S. doesn't. Neat, huh? Tell me it's not controlled. Tell me what you're hearing on the news is real. Next. Healthcare workers were heroes until they actually saw the fallout and they started resisting the jab. Now you got people walking off the job. Hello, Houston. We love you. Next. And California, actually. Was that San Diego, I believe? San Francisco? Not only transplant patients, but anyone who wants to just, perhaps in the future go get their teeth cleaned. You're now going to be denied surgery or procedures until buckling to the jab. You don't want to go, people, listen to me, I've been saying this for years. You do not want to be sick, weak, or in a position of dependence upon this current system. You do not want to go to a hospital any longer if you truly value your life and family. Women, pregnant women, nursing women, guess what? There is no law that says you have to have a pediatrician. There is no law out there that says you have to have a hospital birth. Come next week, we'll talk about it. There, I gave it away. I gave it away what next week is. Guess what? There is no law out there that says you have to go to a cardiologist if you've got palpitations. You don't have to. You don't have to. You've been told that. You don't have to. Gender is considered a personal choice by those who manipulate it with alchemical, synthetic hormones, and sacrificial reassignment surgeries. It's all medicine, right? So it's a choice, but it's not really because we manipulate it. And we're going to talk about that tonight. That's part of tonight's class because this whole gender thing is really throwing a monkey wrench into a few fields in medicine. Next. Medicine says all disease comes from germs and genes. If you've attended my classes before, you know that. Ironically, they're now using the fraudulent science of germs to actually gain control of your genes. A little personal observation there in the last couple weeks. Molecular and metallurgic understanding of what is currently being propagated as a shot had to have been planned decades ago. When you look into the science behind this, there is no way. And it's not human. I'll tell you what. Add the EMF, electromagnetic field, understanding of 5G. Yes, we're talking about your cell phones. And you have a perfectly malevolent storm. Next. Upcoming flu season. And I put that in quotes because there's no such thing as a flu season. You've been told that there is, but you've been lied to, and I will tell you the truth. It will be horrific. And what disease will they all get diagnosed with? Correct. All right. Crazy, huh? That's just in the last couple weeks. Oh, and here, some of you have probably seen this. This is interesting. Interesting, right? I haven't personally checked the job application hotline of these glorious institutions, but I'm pretty sure they're gonna want people who can actually run things without turning into a tardive dyskinesia case. So they're probably not mandating. Just saying. Next. This is what you got to see too. This is a little current event. Check this out. This is a YouTube thing. Don't post content on YouTube if it includes any of the following. This is not something I wrote. This is an email from, an announcement from YouTube. You want to see what you can no longer talk about on YouTube? Content that encourages the use of home remedies, prayer.
What?
It's right there in black and white. or rituals in place of medical treatment, such as consulting a doctor or going to the hospital. Content that claims there's a guaranteed cure. Anything that recommends ivermectin or HCQ. Anything that says HCQ is an effective treatment. You see what they're trying to say? Like when you tell me I can't talk about something, that's telling me I'm over the target. You follow me? You telling me there's a book we got to burn, that's telling me I'm going to go buy that thing. Categorical claims that ivermectin is an effective treatment, blah, blah, blah. My problem with the ivermectin thing is you're trying to get away from the medical system, right? So what's the first thing you do? Take a drug. From where? The medical system. See? Hydroxychloroquine, same thing. Malaria drugs. Not a great idea. What should you do? How about this? How about we get proactive when we get your immunity up to here? Like the walls of, a nice fortress. So you don't have to be dependent upon this nonsense. Because guess what? They could write you a prescription for HCQ, and you could be hiking your little tuchus down to the pharmacy, and the pharmacist says, I'm not going to fill that. You just found out last year. Other content that discourages people from consulting a medical professional or seeking medical advice from a god in a white coat. Next. Oh, no, what's the next? Do we have all of them? Oh, it's ridiculous. Is that the only one we have? Oh, yeah. That's the only one? The rest of this we won't even go through because, we don't have it up here. It's part of the reason. But other stuff you can't talk about. You can't talk about if people being magnetic because of the shot. You can't talk about anything that in the shot makes people trackable. You can't talk about 5G. You can't talk about lots of stuff. You can't talk about, you can't go against the official narrative of the World Health Organization on YouTube. This is from them. This is an email from them. Interesting, huh? Did anybody know this yet? They've been cracking down, but this came out Thursday. All right, so tonight we will discuss all these things. The triune of health, the 3 forms of stress. Some of you who were here last week, this may look familiar, but we got to cover it again for everybody else. My personal history of something called seasonal affective disorder and 1 day of Paxil. Number 3, a nearly 70-year-old observation as to the root cause of all mental conditions. How many of you in here want to know the root cause of all the mental conditions that you've heard of?
Sure.
How about anxiety, depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, all this stuff? How many of you have family members who suffer from some of those? Mm-hmm. Every hand goes up. And here's a kicker. Some of you are on psychiatric meds and don't even know it. Next, we'll get to that. Dr. Thomas Saz's own summary on psychiatry. You'll know who he is here in a minute. Number 5, we're going to talk about, have you been indoctrinated? Let's cover some terminology that maybe you're just not familiar with that all comes from this field and from this medical specialty of psychiatry. Next, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, what's called the DSM of psychiatry. I'm going to show you that. You're going to hold one in your hands by the time you leave. Number 7, why people are crazy. Literally, everywhere you go, people are talking about, oh, people are just nuts. People are just nuts. Well, we're going to discuss why. And number 8, we're going to go through a rapid-fire timeline summary of all of psychiatry. It's going to be rapid fire. It's just going to be pages. I'm going to read, because we got to get through it, and you need to know the gravity of this. And then number 9, if we have time, I don't think we're going to, but what does this have to do with our military? What does it have to do with the Taliban? What does it have to do with ISIS? What does it have to do with the war in the Middle East? What does it have to do with Gulf War syndrome? Why are the veterans killing themselves at a rate that can't be stopped? Why is all this happening? And why is it happening in military personnel who never deployed? They have PTSD, but they never deployed. Why? If we have time, we'll talk about that. I doubt that we will, but this originally started out as a class, Land of the Free, Home of the Crazed. It was really just all about psychiatry in the armed forces, but this is a bigger topic. I put it all together, so we are not going to have time for all of it. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not what? Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be what?
Transformed.
By the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. It doesn't say follow along with the crowd, put your face diaper on, walk 6 feet apart, and jump off the cliff. It doesn't say that. It says don't conform to the pattern of this world. That's what we're going to do. Here's a 2-minute and 23-second long video that should surprise some of you and make you sick. We'll show it here in just a second. Let me know, Jonathan, when you got this. This is called The Marketing of Madness. This is an official trailer. It's about 2 minutes long. Let's just quickly check out where we're going tonight.
If you can convince somebody that they've got a medical or biological problem, that the only thing that solves it is a pill, stands to reason you're going to sell more pills.
If I can't get along with my husband, take a drug. If I'm feeling a little depressed, take a drug. We've become a fast food, fast drug society.
I don't know that there was ever a time in the history of the world where people have been drugged to the extent of what we're seeing today.
The whole pitch appears to be to sell, market, and sell and market.
My job and my pay was based solely on my ability to push drugs through my territory.
We always did a full frontal assault. So we always came in, our product's the best. Are you going to write it? Are you going to write it? You're going to write scripts?
The bottom line for you was it was a business and you had to get as many prescriptions as you needed. And you did it however you could.
When a patient goes into a psychiatrist's office, probably 99% of people are going to receive a medication.
The psychiatric community is completely responsible for the widespread use of psychotropic drugs.
They don't need to report all their data. They don't need to report all the trials that they do. They only need to report the ones that they want.
They didn't disclose that the researchers, almost every single one of them, had financial relationships with the pharmaceutical companies.
Essentially, the study did not really show Paxil was effective in treating adolescent depression, which is not something we want to publicize.
I was told that drug companies write checks to politicians on both sides of the aisle. Back off. You will not expand this investigation into the drug companies.
The psych meds didn't help me at all. They made matters, I'd say, probably like 10 times worse for me.
Didn't want to live. I didn't have the desire to live.
I began to experience suicidal thoughts. This is really the first time I'm saying something about it.
For the psychiatric drugs, the goal is to have as many people on them as possible.
There are certain executives in the pharmaceutical manufacturers that have stated that one day in America, every person will be on drugs, healthy or not.
That's one of many documentaries that are out there just about this one topic. So you should maybe pay attention, because we are going to get into what the doctors are saying, the psychiatrists themselves, the drug reps. You saw some of these people are drug reps. Some of these people are legislators. Some of them are lawyers. So it's not just going to be some dude's opinion up here with a mic in his face. We're going to get right into the disclaimer, and you're going to understand it's not just me. This is not opinion. Prove this in a court of law, honey bunny. We'll show you. Disclaimer, we are not belittling those with emotional traumas. We're simply pulling back the curtain, giving them another option in an arena where further torment abounds via the traditional route. Billions in dollars of sales and side effects with no cure in sight. There's no denying occasional emotional stress. But does this mean that one has a mental disorder that must be diagnosed and treated with neuropsychotropic pharmaceutical poisons? No. You all know friends, family, coworkers, people at church. Heck, half your pastors are on psychiatric medications. You don't even know it. They don't even know it. They just think it's a blood pressure pill. They think it's a drug for this or that. We'll show you, but you got to not get offended, because we're gonna ruffle some feathers. So people can sometimes not believe what I'm saying because it's too easy. This is too easy. What I'm mentioning and bringing forth to people and presenting, it's too easy. They've been taught that, often they think what I'm saying is kind of nonsense. They've been taught it's genetic. They've been taught there's a chemical imbalance. They've been taught there's a hormonal imbalance. It can't be this easy. People want complicated. They want MRIs, CAT scans, blood labs. They want to go see specialists. They do. I hate to say it, but it's human nature. They want attention. Some people, not everybody. But in this case, you're about to see plenty of evidence. If you have more questions afterwards for other resources, I will blow your mind. They're everywhere. Right here, I want to pass this around. We're going to talk about this later on. Not Francis Pottinger. Weston A. Price was a dentist that traveled the world. If you can see this book, it's called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. He traveled the world, basically found all kinds of people, cultures back in the 40s, 50s, that were not inundated by white man's food and processed refined sugars and flours. What he found was shocking. We'll get to it here in a little bit. But what you ought to do, I'm just going to pass it around going this way from Renee onward. I'll pass it around this way. And when it gets back to Jane or whoever, we're going to pass 2 books around. I want you to look. Just look at some of the pictures. Look at some of the pictures of people who, before white man food and after white man food. It's crazy. Crowded dental arches. Teeth didn't have room to come in. Cavities, weak bones, congenital deformities, and birth anomalies, all kinds of stuff. I'll pass that around. And then we're going to pass this around. This is called, right here, the DSM-4. In other words, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Psychiatry. This is version 4. I didn't want to waste my money on version 5. I actually bought this at a Christian bookstore. Yeah. Your Christian colleges and theology training schools use psychiatry. And I'll show you how. And I'll show you what the target was for psychiatry when they started. What was one of the targets? Pulpits, churches. But this book right here, it's Psychiatry's Catalog of Mental Illness. It was first published in 1952. It's 943 pages long. I'm going to pass this around. And I want you to pay special attention to, there's 2 areas between a couple of pink sheets right here. I want you to go to those and see what I marked. Yeah. I'll put this over here so you can actually read it. I want to show you that what used to be considered a disease is now being legalized. Next, covers anxiety, depression, stuttering, addictions, phobias, nightmares, math disorders, whatever, shop too much, you don't like to sleep, whatever. All conditions are labeled as brain diseases. It contains 374 mental disorders. DSM-5, which came after that, I didn't want to spend the money on it, but it's going to contain many more. It's already out, by the way. It determines mental fitness. Here's the kicker, the rest of the kickers. Your right to vote can be removed. It used to decide child custody. It is used to decide child custody battles and discrimination cases. It provides court testimony and is used to institutionalize people. It determines if a person is fit to plead guilty in a criminal trial. You've all heard the guilty by reason of insanity, right? He was insane. It wasn't him, right? That's where this comes from. Determines release or parole for those in jail. Interesting. And it invalidates a person's will. There's not a right you have that can't be taken away by a diagnosis in this book. So when people they're on a drug for erectile dysfunction or whatever, or they're on a drug for stopping smoking, and they realize that now they're officially actually really on a drug for bipolar depression. Now, what happens in your medical records if someone sees, or if the powers that be see that you're on a drug for bipolar depression, but you're really actually taking it off label for weight loss? Could you be labeled as mentally unfit? See where they're going with this? It's already happening. So that being said, let's get into this. This little, well, you know what? Commercial break. Because you all set? We're going to do a quick little commercial break, some testimonials. Amanda's going to come on up and blow your mind. You ready? Yeah. Come on up.
All right. So we'll start off with a great one, especially relevant to tonight's class. It says, I was nervous, unable to concentrate. I had depression, PTSD, pain in my joints, and bipolar disorder. Dr. Spradlin reminded me that I have the mind of Christ. It helped me calm down. After adjustments and protein shakes, I am off 3 medications. I have more stamina, I don't ache, and I am looking forward to a healthy body and brain.
Wow. I don't even remember who that was, but right there, those symptoms at the very beginning, 5 out of 6 of those things are psychiatric diagnoses. 5 out of 6. She'd be on 5 or 6 psychiatric medications, minimum. And put you on another one to take you down. All right, so let's mean what we say and say what we mean. Secret FBI watch list leaks online, and boy, do the feds think a lot of people are terrorists. You know that came out last week, that if you believe the election was rigged, or if you don't believe the official narrative, you're now considered a terrorist, right? When you get a friend request and their profile picture has a stay home, stay safe frame, That's going to be a no. What's out there, Dad? Ignorance, son. Ignorance on a scale I've never seen before. So true. What doesn't kill you? Of course, it just mutates and it tries again, right? That's what people are being indoctrinated with. And if you came last week, you heard a little bit about what's going on currently with the virus, right? All right, so let's get right into this. It's just a couple minutes long. I want you to see this. What you're going to see is three things. You're going to see at the very beginning, you're going to see psychiatrists admitting that there's no such thing as a chemical imbalance. How many of you have heard of the chemical imbalance theory? Everyone in this room. If they're crazy, they had a chemical imbalance. If they're fat, they had a hormone imbalance, right? We've all heard it. It's fake. It doesn't exist. You'll see actual psychiatrists admitting that there is no test for chemical imbalance. Kind of like, let me see, if 40 years ago there was no test for a chemical imbalance when they started prescribing antidepressants, do you think there might not be something existing out there right now that they're testing for with the real-time polymerase chain reaction deal? They've been doing it for decades. The second thing I want you to see is there's a hidden camera deal here where people get diagnosed quickly by a psychiatrist, and then here's the drug that we're going to use for you. You'll see. It will blow your mind. They'll be diagnosed with like low-grade bipolar, ADHD, all this crap, and then they're going to say, here's some Prozac, here's some Zoloft, here's some Paxil, blah blah blah. Third thing I want you to see: psychiatrists at the very end of this admitting and saying, we've never cured anyone. Go ahead and roll that. Let's check this out.
Admit its utter lack of science.
We have no diagnostic reliable markers for almost any illness there is in the DSM.
What we're testing for in psychiatry, it's hard to say because there's nothing specifically.
But as far as a test that's clinically useful, we're not there yet.
We don't have any laboratory tests that we can use to determine whether somebody does or doesn't have a mental illness.
There are no good biological tests for detecting mental illness.
There is no test, there's no biopsy you can do.
There is no chemical test right now.
There are no specific tests to confirm the diagnosis or show the improvement, like any blood tests or any x-rays or anything like that.
Oh, in my practice, I don't do any tests. I just speak with people and listen to them, and then I make a decision in what kind of illness.
These diagnoses vary as widely as the psychiatrists who make them. In this hidden camera footage, a person visited several different psychiatrists, complaining of the same symptoms.
I'm extremely unorganized, and I didn't used to be. It's caused problems in the family. It's caused problems getting, I'm self-employed.
You've got ADD, ADHD, you're depressed, and your depression is bipolar depressed.
If you have a brain chemistry disorder, it's probably genetic.
You have a lot of the symptoms of depression.
So it seems like it is a mixed picture. What that means is like we got some depressive symptoms and some, high symptoms.
If you're bipolar, I'll need to give you a mood stabilizer. Mm-hmm. We don't know. I kind of doubt it.
Considered low-grade bipolar.
You are more of the ADD than ADHD.
And as far as medications for depression, because I would recommend that you start a medication, which are Prozac, Zoloft, Paxil, Celexa.
Usually Propylene XR is pretty good.
They'll give you some Lexapro in the morning and some Crazed at night.
Lamictal is a better medication for that. It works on your depression also.
But the treatment for any bipolar cycling is the same. The lithium,
Remeron is another one.
Trazodone,
Secretol,
Depakote, Wellbutrin,
Lexapro,
Lamictal,
Equatroid,
Depakote,
lithium,
Ambien.
You may need an antidepressant also with your Lamictal.
We don't know if I give you a medication if it is going to work or not.
To a certain degree, it's trial and error.
You never know if it's the right drug.
How many people have I cured? Well, there are no real cures right now in psychiatry.
I have cured none of my patients.
We're
always challenged by our lack of knowledge.
I mean, in fact, we don't know what the causes of mental illness are.
Most mental illnesses, we do not know the cause.
Of course, it would be nice to know exact reasons of disorders, but maybe in the future.
I'm the Director of Research at the American Psychiatric Association. We don't know the etiology of really any of the mental disorders at the present time.
Sexual claims.
So what's the answer? How do we fix this? Well, your entire population of the United States and pretty much the world has been completely hoodwinked into thinking that the entire population has psychiatric problems. So how do we fix it? Well, we'll talk about it. We'll get there. These are forecasts of top 10 best-selling drugs, 2025. Notice, you'll always see this in the headlines. Pfizer, today they dropped the Pfizer. Today everything was approved, right? Of the fake crap, right? Yeah, and it'll make headlines. You know, Pfizer Q3 numbers will go through the roof, right? Notice this. They always say this. They always measure the effectiveness of a drug not by who's cured, but by what? How many buy them? Dollars, profit. It's right under your nose. So this is a forecast of the top 10 best-selling drugs going forward to 2025. You know Keytruda, that one you always see on TV? Boom, that's going to be the top-selling drug. Eliquis. You know, once you get somebody on Eliquis, the fear will never let go in many cases. Revlimid, Opdivo, Imbruvica, Humira, Biktarvy, Ibrance, Stelara, Trulicity. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. This is billions of dollars. Billions. See how many of these? So if you add all these up, those are the top 10. Just to get a feel, just to get a handle, right? And okay, let's look at the next one. Top pharma drugs by sales. I know some of the stuff's old, but good luck finding real numbers on the internet these days. Top pharma drugs by sales in 2019. Kind of some of the same names you see: Xarelto, Avastin, Opdivo, Revlimid. I mean, look at this, in the billions, numbers. Humira, rheumatoid arthritis. I mean, it just goes on and on. And Ambien, like what they talked about in that last video, Ambien, what's that usually for? Sleep. Did you know that insomnia is a psychiatric disorder? That's what I mean. People are on drugs for psychiatric conditions, and they don't even know that it's a psychiatric condition. So really, you're on a quote-unquote crazy drug that could get your voting, your kids, or anything else. You go through a divorce, something like that, the lawyer finds out that you're on Ambien. Guess what? Guess what? Next. Oh, and Jonathan, get ready to go to do the little thing that I told you about. 10 most prescribed psychiatric drugs in the U.S. Jonathan's going to go here in a second. We're going to look at this, but here in a second he's going to go to drugs.com, and I'm going to show you how easy this is for you and your family to do on your own at home. Look at this. Xanax, Valium, Effexor, Seroquel, Cymbalta, Deserel, Prozac, Zoloft, Ativan, Lexapro. I feel like I just did a pagan, Satan-worshipping incantation. I just pronounced a bunch of demon words. But we're going to go to Xanax. We're just going to look at Xanax. So Jonathan's going to pull up a web browser and go right to drugs.com. We've done this before. I'll show you again. You all need to know how to do this. It's super easy. He's going to pull up a browser, go to drugs.com. Drugs.com is not an anti-pharmaceutical, anti-vax website or anything. It's the pharmaceutical industry's own checks and balance. You can go there and look up any drug. If somebody sells you the wrong type of drug on the street and you want to go look up what it is, you just look up look up by little white pill, cut in half, it's got a little score on it, and you can put the number in and figure out that, oh, that's RU486. Okay, great. I got a deal on that from the guy on the street. So we just go to drugs.com. Nobody buys RU486 on the street. Not anymore. That was grade school. But we go here to find drugs and conditions. We enter a drug name. So if you want to know what Grandma Xanax really does, go XANAX, return. It's super easy. Look right here. Scroll down a little bit. Of course they put ads in there, but look. Alprazolam, Xanax, is a benzodiazepine. You don't need to know all the fancy words. Just look at what it does. It is thought, by the way, that this drug works by enhancing the activity of certain neurotransmitters in the brain. Remember, they just said that there's no such thing as a chemical imbalance? What happens when you give someone a drug? It creates a chemical imbalance. You've been lied to. It is thought, they don't even know, that this drug works by enhancing the activity of certain neurotransmitters. Xanax is used to treat anxiety disorders and anxiety caused by depression. So now, here's what you do for grandma or mom or sister or sister-in-law. Click on side effects. Remember, it's used to treat anxiety and depression. Now, just check this out. Once again, this is not a chiropractic natural health website. This is the pharmaceutical company's stuff. You could do the same thing on Hippocrates or any number of other drug websites. We just use this one because it's easy. Common side effects of Xanax include ataxia, meaning you can't move, cognitive dysfunction, constipation, difficulty in micturition, you can't pee, drowsiness, dysarthria, fatigue, memory impairment, skin rash, weight gain, weight loss, anxiety. Wait a minute, anxiety? What'd they give it to you for? You can't make this up. It's right there in black and white on their own website. It's published. Let's keep going, though. Blurred vision, diarrhea. Remember they said constipation? Diarrhea, constipation, diarrhea. Which one? We're just going to cover all of our bases for a few reasons. Why? Because if they tell you, and then you still take this stuff, guess what? You've consented to spiritually and contractually, right? If they tell you what it can do, and you're like, oh, okay, all right. Hey, this they do this. It's to confuse you, yes. It's to cover their butts, yes. It's to tell the truth, yes. But it's also to catch you in signing the contract of consent. But look at this. Increased appetite. Up here they said increased appetite, decreased appetite. Other side effects include hypotension, sexual disorder, muscle twitching, increased libido. But up here they said decreased libido. Decreased libido. So you'll be humping beehives and trees and pine knots if you're on this crap. So you're wondering why Granny is getting down with the dude in the nursing home and you can't keep track of her? Where do over alerts come from? Oh yeah, look at that. Will you ever put this together with the list from the second drug you're on, and the third drug you're on, and the fourth drug you're on, and the 12th drug you're on? And while grandma's down at the nursing home and they're feeding her this crap 3 times a day, this is murder. I'm just going to call it what it is. It's demonic witchcraft. I doubt that many people would say that because they'd be afraid where they get funky. This is for me. See, all that previous stuff was the short words. That was the small stuff for you guys. But I pull in here and I park my car on the healthcare professionals part because I know here's where they're going to tell the truth. They're going to use the big words. I understand the big words. It's crazy. Scroll down. Let me just keep going. Here's psychiatric. The thought system, right? Keep going, keep going. They break it down here under healthcare professionals. They break it down by body system. So you can tell. Gastrointestinal, look here. Decreased salivation, constipation, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal distress. People will come in and they'll think that they have gastroesophageal reflux disease, but they don't have gastroesophageal reflux disease all day long. And if you don't know any of this, you will adjust them, you will give them herbs, you will let them sit in a sauna, you'll give them another drug, depending on what kind of doctor you are, and you'll never understand that they're poisoning themselves from the inside out, killing themselves, and you're just chasing symptoms like every other doctor that did the same thing. All right, let's get off this crap. Let's look at this. Thank you, Jonathan. Yay, everybody give Jonathan a round of applause. It's a wonderful web surfing right there. So since 1987, this is ridiculous. You ready? When the first, here's some stats. I'm just going to blow your mind with some stats. When the first modern antidepressant entered the market, what year was that? 1987. 1986 is considered the gateway year that everything in America, health-wise, including children, started tanking. Write that down, 1986. What happened in 86? Oh, a list of things. But here's what happened in 1986 was considered the gateway year. Everybody knows, in my realm, late 80s, early 90s, that's when stuff started going downhill. You couldn't figure out. That's where miracles just stopped. Everything came to a screeching halt. A few things happened. Genetically modified organisms, aspartame, direct-to-TV marketing, food supply went down the crapper. First, entered the market. The number of people on government quadrupled. Nuts in 24 years. And I will just warn you ahead of time, a lot of these stats that I've got are 10 years old. That's just the best source of the stats I could find. Now, good luck finding stuff on the internet that isn't censored and isn't bought and paid for. Children's mental disorders, in 1952, there were 3. In 2011, there's 44. Wow. It's 10 years later, there's more. Diagnosis of ADHD has labeled 20 million children worldwide. ADHD and ADD don't exist. Not like what you're told. Show me a kid with ADD, I'll show you a kid with a crappy refrigerator. And I'll show you a parent that's damn near poisoning that kid to death. Show me a kid with ADD. I'll change him on a dime. But not until we change mom. That's my thing. There is not a shred of valid scientific evidence that what psychiatrists call a chemical imbalance even exists. You just heard other psychiatrists say that. A dozen psychiatrists say that. Next, too thin, too fat, smoking too much, shopping too much, too clean, all are deemed mental disorders. What is it called if you're just too clean? You all know it. Who else? Who else? Who else? What if you just clean too much? What's the thing? What do they call you now? OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. You just like things clean. That's a disease. What do they call it if you just keep a lot of crap around that you don't need? Hoarding. See how they got you coming and going? You like humping beehives too much? You don't like humping beehives. You like, drinking mud puddles? You don't like drinking mud puddles. It's just they got you coming and going. You got too much energy? ADD. You got too little energy? Chronic fatigue syndrome. See? Next. Over 500 million people worldwide have been prescribed psychiatric drugs for conditions that are not even diseases. What is it? Next week? 2 weeks? 2 weeks from now, diseases that don't exist. I will wreck your face with diseases that you thought are bona fide in the scientific literature, and you will come out of here with your chin on the ground, dragging your face, saying, I had no idea that didn't even exist. It's a physiological response, like what we did with stress last week, showing you how none of those are really diseases. They're just different anatomical locations with the same process, right? 2 weeks. Diseases that are not diseases, which no blood test, X-ray, chemical imbalance test, brain scan, any physical test can verify. That's why we don't do X-rays, CAT scans, MRIs, blood tests. Why? They don't mean anything. Doctors would try to tear me apart, saying, what are you talking about? MRIs and CAT scans are a vital diagnostic procedure. No, they're not. They're vital to insurance companies, not to me. Over 1.1 million psychiatric deaths in the past 4 decades. I get this. Highlight this. Put a circle around this. Nearly twice as many Americans have died in government psychiatric hospitals as in every war since 1776 combined. Unbelievable, isn't it? Tell me there's not a genocide going on. And then you put TV on top of it? Oh, man. It doesn't affect me. I hear this from people all the time. It's like when we say we're doing a class on kids. Oh, I don't need to come to that. I don't have kids. Yeah, but you pay taxes for your school district, don't you? Really? Insurance pays out $69 billion in psychiatric services every year. It drives up your insurance premiums. Why aren't you paying attention, right? People just are so willing to like just kick the can down the road and say, it doesn't affect me. Yeah, it does affect you, bud, because you're on an erectile dysfunction pill called Viagra made by Pfizer, and it's a psychiatric med. If you're on a psychiatric med, guess what, bub? They could take your guns. Next. So yes, it does affect you. Divorced people decades ago would rely upon friends, family, clergy, and the occasional family doc. Today, they're medicated. How many of you can say yes to that one, right? Next. DSM disorders could apply to all of us. No one is immune to fictitious disorders. First edition in 52 with 106 mental disorders. $72 billion in private and government insurance money is billed currently. This is a money-making cash cow. It's unbelievable. Nearly half of all suicides are on psych meds. Psych meds kill more than 2.5 times the number of homicides. Interesting, isn't it? Expanded use for drugs. This is a good one too. Put a circle, put this on a hashtag. Look at this. This allows the drug companies to release a new drug for a new disease. Prozac became Serafem for premenstrual dysphoric disorder with a simple change in the color of the pill. Zyban for smoking is actually Wellbutrin for depression. Cymbalta for depression is the same as Yentreve, or Yentrive, I don't even know how you say that demonic word, for urinary incontinence. So what they do, they find an off-label thing that happens with this drug, and then they market it for that off-label thing. Kind of like your ADD drugs, Adderall, they market that for weight loss. Because when you're stimmed out of your mind and your pupils are blown out and you're like just ready to fight, you're not thinking about eating, because so guess what happens? You lose weight. So they make it an off-label, they call it they make an off-label purpose for the same drug, they color it different with toxic chemical dyes, they make a new name for it, now you've got a second market for that drug, or third or fourth, right? Perfect. Next. Obesity, alcoholism, itching, shivering, excessive hair pulling are all being targeted with drugs. How do we fix it? By understanding this. You've been deceived. We've all been deceived. I took it hook, line, and sinker. I know, right? So the chemical, emotional, structural. We covered this last time. Chemical, right here. Well, I think we've got it in a slide. Chemical, emotional, and structural. This is the only thing that this is how you take down humans. This is it. And, oh, by the way, if anybody needs a notepad to write any of this down, we've got sheets. Anybody need anything? Let Amanda know. So the triad of healthcare, structurally, physically, examples would be a motor vehicle accident, MVA, sorry, I abbreviate a lot of things, broken bones, falling off a ladder, slipping on the ice. You've got a structural damage to your body, right? Structural damage. You trip, you fall, you break something, you cut something. It's a structural problem, right? Could be an accident. Chemical, nutritional. That could go two ways. It could be too much bad stuff, or it could be not enough good stuff. Bad stuff, aspartame, pesticides, GMOs, drugs, vaccines, sugar, all the crap they dropped on you in the late 80s, early 90s. That's why all the kids don't know which bathroom to pee in now, and half of them can't see straight. That's why. Chemical nutrition could go the other way, too little nutrition. Vitamins, minerals, fats, proteins. Everybody on the low fat, no fat thing, can't make hormones, can't have a baby? I wonder why. They knew. And then the emotions and the mental part of the triangle. The world sells fear and stress in a coordinated fashion. Just turn on your news for 5 minutes. That's why your devil vision's full of it. Good decisions are never made out of fear. We talked about this back in the stress class quite a bit. I went off on this for a minute. Examples. What are examples of emotional stress? Divorce, bankruptcy, job loss, emotional or physical abuse. See, if somebody screams at you and hits you, guess what? It's an emotional and a physical abuse, right? Death, a family member, death of pet, anything. So you put any of these together in the right ratios and you're going to have a problem. What if you put a whole lot of crappy nutrition, you put a whole lot of toxins, then you go to work and your boss is riding you like Seabiscuit, and then you're going home and all of this is wrecking you, and you space out and you hit a tree with a motor vehicle accident, right? It all comes together. So now can you understand why so many people are out of their minds? John Rappaport put it this way. Let's look at this next one. Here's just a few issues that could cause psychiatric problems, right? Severe nutritional deficiency, toxic dyes and colors in processed food, ingestion of pesticides and herbicides, profound sensitivities to certain foods, the ingestion of toxic pharmaceuticals. You know there's no such thing as a non-toxic pharmaceutical? Life-altering damage as a result of vaccines. I see that on a daily basis. Exposure to environmental chemicals. I see that on a daily basis. Heavy physical and emotional abuse in the home or at school. Battlefield stress and trauma, also present in certain neighborhoods nowadays. Prior head injury, traumatic brain injury, TBIs. Chronic infection. How many people come in here and they're blown out of their minds on some kind of anxiety, depression, but they have an underlying subacute infection that's not ever going to show up on a blood lab. Chronic infection. Alcohol and street drugs, debilitating poverty, that's just a few. But all of those fit into what? That triangle. Every one of them. Every one of them. Let's look at this. Oh, well, this is, yeah. Just real quick, and then we've got a commercial break. To relate to everybody and let everybody know that we've all been through this, here's my little personal 2-minute story on seasonal affective disorder and Paxil. Among all of my friends that I knew that were on antidepressants and all this stuff, I'm not even going to mention that. This is just my personal thing. For years, I grew up in Michigan, the land of gray skies, and 9 months out of the year, the weather sucks, right, Jane? Yeah. Anybody who's ever lived in Michigan from, I don't know, June, July, and August are beautiful. Everything else sucks. November to May, it rains. It's cloudy. Straight up, Windy City, Chicago, right across Lake Michigan, just sends us all that crap weather, all the crap stuff dumping right across the lake, and it just pees on your house like 9 months a year. So I grew up in Michigan, crappy weather. Hated it all the time because my family, everybody I knew, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents were in Kentucky. So I just grew up hating Michigan. But around about every year, I went to college, and all of a sudden, around about every year in college, I just started, like around about February, I would just get really sad, really down. Well, one year I called my mom, and my mom always had a great, way of picking me up. But she said, well, I heard of something on the news that I thought of you. And she said, it's called seasonal affective disorder. And I said, oh, there's a name for it. That makes sense. Like every February, yeah, every February, life sucks. I want to put a gun in my mouth. Not really, but I mean, it sucked. It was depression. It sucked. I hated it. But when I finally, it's like everybody else, when you finally hang a name on it, you feel some kind of identity. You feel some kind of like, oh, somebody else has this. Somebody else is, so they had to have figured this out. So what'd she do? She scheduled an appointment, family doctor. I go in, they put me on Paxil, which was a brand new drug at the time, right? I think. But I took that stuff for one day, and I thought I was going to kill myself. I thought this made it worse. This is horrible. Did you notice the guy reading at the desk in the movie earlier? He said, we determined that Paxil had no clinical effectiveness, and actually it was not the information we wanted to publish. I meant to point that out to you earlier, but that was the drug. That was it. So that was my own personal little story. I said right then and there, that first day, I just looked, and this was before, I don't know, maybe I was 17, or I was in college. I must have been 19, 20. And I remember looking at that bottle of pills and going, this makes me feel like absolute hell. I'm not going to take this every day. I'll take my chances just on my own. And I didn't know anything close to what I know now about the pervasive evil of this nonsense. So that's my own personal story. That's for you to understand that we've all been through this. And on that note, commercial break. Come on up, Amanda.
I'm going to tell you somebody else's personal story. As I thought being overweight was the most important issue. I had no idea how many things or how I could be helped by eating properly. A little at a
remove my tinfoil hat. Can you remove your spike proteins? We didn't hang out last year because of COVID, but we're not hanging out this year because I saw your Facebook posts during COVID. I've not been on social media for about a year and a half, and I don't miss it a bit. I get a lot more done now. Now, this one I want to spend some time on. I think we ought to send this to every patient. Really, just so they have something to send to their family members. Critical thinkers, and I'll read this for those of you who can't see it. Critical thinkers are thinking, okay, what's in it? Who developed it? Who manufactured it? What's their track record? Do they have legal liability? Like all the things you'd ask if you were buying a home or a car, getting into a relationship, kind of those critical thinking questions that you should just ask. How long was it tested for? Who's telling me to get it? What's their track record? Is it effective? Is it necessary for my age? How many side effects are reported? How many deaths are reported? See, just common, everyday questions. Over here, mainstream normies, that's why I love this. This is so great. Should I get a COVID vaccine? They're just saying, well, the TV says we need herd immunity, right? All my friends got cute stickers and a card. The TV says I should participate for the greater good. Celebrities, athletes, and musicians all tell me to get it. Government experts and politicians all tell me to get it. See the problem? And I don't want to be considered a conspiracy theorist. That is so powerful right there. That's it in a nutshell. That's really it in a nutshell. Next. I'm losing friends and followers due to my beliefs and the content I share. Perhaps I should tone it down. The other me says, step it up a notch, bub. Step it up a notch. Kind of funny, but not. Yeah. Yeah. You know why we have a 6-foot-tall Trump and Melania in the lobby? It's a barometer. We're taking your temperature. Next. So, a nearly 70-year-old observation as to the root of all medical conditions. This is Weston Price. Hold up those books. Where are they? That one right there. Yeah. Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. That was a book written in 1938. Here is Dr. Weston Price. He was a dentist, so he traveled the world looking for health, not disease. See, if you travel looking around for disease, you'll always find it. If you travel looking around for health, guess what? You'll always find it. But he went around looking for people who were healthy. After one has lived among the primitive racial stocks and studied them in their isolation, few impressions can be more vivid than that of the absence of prisons and asylums. I thought I was going to hear a gasp there for a moment. You ever hear of Native Americans having a prison? You ever hear of the Aztecs or the Incas or the Mayans or anyone ancient anybody ever having an asylum? Only us. Few, if any, of the problems which confront modern civilization are more serious and disturbing than the progressive increase in the percentage of individuals with unsocial traits and lack of responsibility. So what was he saying? Well, Royal Lee summed it up. Here's Royal Lee. Recent publicity regarding mental disease, which is rapidly becoming our #1 health problem, reflects the truth in Dr. Price's observation. Dr. Royal Lee said that in 1958. Psychiatry, and here's Dr. Thomas Saz, psychiatry is probably the single most destructive force that has affected society within the last 60 years. In other words, I will wrap up what all three of these guys said. Weston A. Price traveled the world and said, I don't see asylums, I don't see prisons. I don't see mental health facilities, I don't see counselors, I don't see psychologists. I don't see psychiatrists, I most certainly don't see drugs. But here's what else I don't see. If you read that book, he says, I didn't see bread, I didn't see white flour, I didn't see processed foods. This was, remember, 1938. Aspartame, glyphosate, vaccines, they did not exist yet in their present. They weren't even a thought. So that was 1938. That was what, 80 years ago? And here's Royal Lee coming later, founder of Standard Process, also a dentist. And he said, you know what, Weston A. Price is right. So what's the real cause? The observation as to the root cause of all mental conditions? What would you say? Nutrition. Can you clear out an asylum or a prison? Yeah, they did it in the textbooks, medical textbooks, but they took it out in the 60s for reasons that you'll see later on. But that's the cause, that's the purpose. A 3-minute, 40-second video coming up here. Thomas Saz, you'll get a kick out of this. This is the head honcho of psychiatry, one of the biggest psychiatry guys in the world. Check this out.
have to have a term in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual in order to then call it a disease and treat it as a disease and write a prescription for it. When I went to medical school, there were only 6 or 7 items in the manual. Now there are over 300. I mean, you mean to tell me that there have been 294 diseases discovered in the last 60 years? In psychiatry alone? It's a joke. It's an epidemic of psychiatry that we are dealing with. We don't have an epidemic of mental illness, we have an epidemic of psychiatry. You eat too much, it's a disease, it's an addiction. You smoke too much, it's a disease. You are too unhappy, it's a disease. You're too thin, it's a disease. You're too fat, it's a disease. You have too little sex, it's a disease. You have too much sex, it's a disease. No free will, it's all chemicals. No self-discipline, no self-control. The chemical imbalance meshes very well with the idea that you give a drug which restores the balance. It's a story, a mythology, a fable. And that's a baseline from which we're operating now in America. The child doesn't perform the way he should or behaves he should. He is not responsible. Some chemical will give him a chemical. You hear day in and day out on television that this is a mental illness and that's a mental illness. And Zoloft is advertised. Beer you can't advertise, but Zoloft you can advertise. Now it's not just psychiatry, it's a whole psychiatrization of the culture. Now what's more toxic, Zoloft or beer? Amen. Case closed. See, the internal contradiction in these very concepts is so total that they don't stand up to any scrutiny. Nobody has yet measured, demonstrated, or created a test to show that somebody has a chemical imbalance in their brain. Period. Psychiatrists are getting more and further and further and further away from this human-to-human touch. And they are becoming more and more quacks, where they talk and act and impersonate doctors. They talk about diagnoses and treatments and the brain and all this kind of stuff about which they know nothing. Zero. It's not science, it's politics and economics. That's what psychiatry is, politics and economics. Behavior control. It is not science, it is not medicine. This is so big that it boggles the mind.
How many hundreds of millions of people in the world are drugged out of their face on psychiatric meds? Well, we'll talk about it. Here's some observations, though. Many terms have entered our vocabulary. These are just personal observations. I'm sure y'all can think of some more. If you do, let me know. I'll put them in the next time we do this class. When people say I have social anxiety, how many times do you hear that? How many times? Right? It's a very common thing to hear today regarding crowded places. What? So you can't go shopping? You don't like to go anywhere where other people are? That's a disease. Social anxiety. The term kleptomaniac, we've all used. You know where that came from? That book. Where is that book? Fabulous. Model that for us there, Annabelle. Perfect. That book right there. So much of your terminology that you're going to use, I'm going to show you, came out of that demonic book right there that I bought at a Christian bookstore. Next. Going postal came from shootings of postal workers and office violence in the 90s. You remember that? Going postal, somebody walking into the post office, mowing down an entire troop of people. That's where that term came from. I'm so anxious. Anxious people declare general anxiety over themselves regularly. What is anxiety? Anxiety is a couple things. Your neurons in your brain getting pounded with sugar and chemicals, and then your lungs not breathing oxygen into your body. How do I know? Hold your breath long enough and you'll have a panic attack. It's a lack of oxygen. But there's more to it than that, but we could go into more details. I had a panic attack. Panic disorders are commonly referenced in society, in the media, on TV. Notice old Thomas Sass said, where did he say most people will find out about the drugs? On TV. You can advertise Zoloft, but you can't advertise beer. Next. Erectile dysfunction is a mental disorder. So is enuresis. Nocturnal enuresis. Means nocturnal is nighttime, enuresis is pee in the bed. If you got a kid, pee in the bed, guess what? That's a psychiatric disorder for which there will be a drug. I'm telling you, stay out of the medical system. Stay out of the medical system. Oh, and how many guys, erectile dysfunction, they don't know it's a psychiatric drug. You can look in that book, in between those two pink Post-it notes, there's a few things I wanted you to look at, and erectile dysfunction is either in front of or behind that. There's a few things I wanted you to see that in the DSM-4 were called sexual dysfunction or sexual disorders, but in the DSM-5 they're not there. So we're normalizing those perversions. That's what that is. Dementia is a psychiatric diagnosis. Did you know that? Your mom, your dad, if they can't remember things, cognitive decline is a psychiatric disorder. Narcolepsy and insomnia are sleep disorders. We just spoke about insomnia a minute ago, but narcolepsy, did you know that? That's a psychiatric disorder. Reference in the DSM. Ah, there it is. Gender identity disorders are a burgeoning category now. But they're going away because it's normalized. But it used to be in the DSM-4, in that version, gender identity disorders. Transvestism is in there. Huh, you got it. Yeah. It's in there. As a psychiatric disorder. What else? What's the other one? Oh, that's the one I marked for you. Pedophilia. In that book, pedophilia is called a psychiatric disorder. It's not anymore. It's legal in California, right? No? Right? Depressed people can have acute, I may be wrong on that. I've heard certain aspects of pedophilia are legal in California. I'm not sure if the whole thing is legal in California. Depressed people can have acute or chronic depression. You get diagnosed differently either way. Eating disorders. You know what? Those, anorexia, bulimia, widely known, 80s, 90s, those are psychiatric disorders. Next. There's a lot of stuff you don't know are psychiatric disorders. When you hear people say, oh, my OCD kicked in after that birthday party, I had to clean up everything. OCD people clean things. They're organized. Get over it. It's not a problem. Sorry, what were you saying? ADD and ADHD kids have energy and lack of focus. Why? Show me one of these kids and I'll show you that they're hopped up on sugar and that their brain is getting pounded by stuff that shouldn't be in their body. I'll show it to you every time. Postpartum depression, ladies, did you know that that's a psychiatric disorder? So the goal is to make every one of you crazy at some point in your life. Next. She's totally bipolar. You'll hear people say, she's totally bipolar. That can be derogatory for those who go up and down frequently. You heard the one guy say manic depression, manic depression. Manic means you're, depressive means you're low. So manic depressive is the old word for bipolar. Next. Numerous learning disorders give rise to developmental learning programs. That's why the kids class that we talked about 2-3 weeks ago, you see a huge list of not just children's cancer hospitals, but you'll see a huge list of autism spectrum disorder schools popping up all across the nation to handle what? Kids with learning disorders. From what? Food, chemicals, and vaccines. Next. I have PTSD. How many times you hear this? PTSD can be from childhood or more commonly combat operations. There is not anything, we're not taking away anything from people who fought in wars and saw people die and things get blown up and lost body parts. We're not taking anything away from that. What we're saying is post-traumatic stress disorder, thousands of years ago, it used to be called battle fatigue. Then it became known as shell shock when we developed bombs and mortars. Now, though, PTSD is a psychiatric disorder that will lead to your veterans and your husbands and your uncles and your brothers being drugged senseless, on top of being pincushions for vaccines in the Middle East. And we'll talk more about that maybe toward the end if we have time. I've got a bunch of stuff on veterans I want to talk about because that's close to my heart. How many of you have heard people say this? Psychiatric disorders went zoonotic. They went from humans to animals. Right? Just like the wet market in China, right? Just like the monkeys, just like the AIDS guy, the guy who humped a monkey and gave everybody AIDS, right? It goes from animals to humans. It's comical. It's a clown show, complete clown show. But the dogs are now getting anxiety meds. So if you miss someone, you have an attachment disorder, right? Innocent by reason of temporary insanity has been cited in court cases. We talked about that. Adverse drug, this is literally in that book. Adverse drug effects disorder. Did you know jet lag? Where did the word jet lag come from? Where did that term come from? Psychiatry, from that book. How are disorders accumulated into that book? It's a room full of people like this, and they vote. Because in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, one thing you'll never find is statistics. I know, it's crazy. Caffeine addiction, if you like coffee, that's caffeine addiction disorder. Internet addiction disorder, if you're checking out Amazon or you're just on Facebook too much. And binge eating disorder. Yeah, it's crazy. There's a disorder for everything. Next. Disruptive mood dysregulation disorder used to be called temper tantrums. I'm not kidding. I'm not making this up. Pedophilia is a rather pervasive topic in some circles. We spoke about that, page 571, I do believe. Crazy, isn't it? But the summary, no laboratory test exists for any chemical imbalance. If there is one thing I want you to get out of this, when somebody says to you, oh yeah, he's got a chemical imbalance, you call bullshit. That's what I want you to get out of this. Nope, not buying it. Somebody calls hormonal imbalance, you say the same thing. Not buying it. I call BS on that. Doesn't exist. You just heard a dozen psychiatrists, including the top dog of psychiatry himself, say there is no test. There is none. There's no brain scan. There's no PET scan. There's no MRI. There's no CAT scan. There's no blood labs. They can't test anything and find a chemical imbalance in your brain. And when you give somebody a drug, it causes a chemical imbalance, right? Sounds pretty demonic, doesn't it? So summary, in psychiatry, no cause is known, no cure exists. Stay away from these people. With psychiatric diagnoses, your right to own a firearm can be taken away. Insurance costs for genetic chemical imbalance surpass medical costs. Next. Look at that list. What do they all have in common? Elvis, Whitney Houston, Prince, Michael Jackson, Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse, Tom Petty. Psychiatric medications. I thought I'd at least get a guffaw out of, isn't that crazy? From Elvis to Tom Petty. It's crazy. Suicide, what helped them out? Some of them were suicide. What helped them out? The psychiatric meds, right? Same deal here. School shooters are always linked in some way to psychiatric drugs. I guarantee you, if you look into the case, if you look into how the kid was either changing dosages or he was changing prescriptions from Zoloft to Xanax or Xanax to Wellbutrin, whatever, from Columbine on down and up in both directions. Look at the question that's never being asked. Were they on psych meds? 99.9% of the time, I guarantee you, they were on psych meds. Next. No more drunk driving. You ever notice that? You haven't seen that on TV in a long time, have you? You haven't seen billboards, have you? What is it now? Drug driving. Broad daylight. Granny at the red light hires a kite, ready to run you off the road because she doesn't even see you. She's on 6 or 8 prescriptions. Funny, right? Preemptive drugging based on prediction of pre-psychotic disorders in kids, just like they're telling everybody it's pre-cancer, it's pre-diabetes, it's pre-cancer, it's pre-diabetes, right? They're doing that with kids, drugging them preemptively so that they avoid anxiety and depression. You can't make this up. Schools, governments, courts, media, churches, military, they've all been infiltrated. All of them. And especially right here. U.S. healthcare, despite imaging, drugs, shots, and surgeries, is continually sucking. Media ads for the latest miracle drug continue unabated. Why? Because we went to direct to consumer, I should say, television commercials, and that cut the doctor out of the whole thing. So that now, you know, you're the doctor, I'm the patient. I come to the doctor and I go, hey, I don't care that you went to medical school for 12 years. I saw the purple pill on TV. I think I need that one. Right? Ask your doctor if is right for you. So who's dictating your medications? If you're even stupid enough to trust these people. It's not the doctor. It's not their knowledge, if there is any, some people. It's the commercials you see on TV. It's the drug companies telling you what to take. That's scientific, isn't it? And on that note, ready for another commercial break?
All right, this one says, I feel better than I have for years. I was overweight, taking several medications, and not feeling well. Now I can say that my life has greatly improved. I have lost more than 55 pounds. I have come off several medications already, started eating properly, and feel the best I have in years. I am continuing to work with Dr. Brett to attain optimum health.
That's easy stuff. That is easy stuff. Oh, and ask your psychiatrist for testimonials. Ask your medical doctor who has put you on Synthroid for the last 35 years. Ask him if he's got any testimonials. Let's go look at his Google review rating or his Facebook. Hi, I'm from the government. I'm here to help. That sends chills down my spine. That poor little fawn. And old Jaguar is moving in. Looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. Fact checkers say it's a squirrel. The name that shall not be named and the flu are like Superman and Clark Kent. You never see them in the same room at the same time. Texas removes mask mandate to scare all the Californians away. Oh, this is a church I went to this weekend. This is a mask-free church campus. Kindly remove them or stay in your car. We celebrate faith over fear. Hallelujah. Yeah, we have a mask section here. It's called your car. Get in it. Question. You live in the most free and prosperous country in human history. So why so much anxiety and depression? Why so much confusion? Why do some people act the way they do? If you are living in the greatest country in history, here it is. People are indoctrinated by the TV, fake news, censorship, fraudulent science. They believe everything they hear on the one-eyed idiot box, demon-possessed devil vision, spewing sewage directly into their eyes and ears from very evil, evil, evil people. So they just believe what they're told. They're fluoridated. They're drinking water, plastics. You know why that is? Because 80% of your body is water. So if you drink crappy, cheap water and you don't filter it and you just trust Nestle to give you Dasani or Coke to give you Aquafina, or I may have those backwards, you'll be dead and you'll be wondering, where's my memory? Why can't I remember where my car keys are? You'll have dementia by 40 years old. They're medicated because we just talked about all of the crap that people, it's not just prescription drugs, folks. It's your over-the-counter crap too. It's your acetaminophen, it's your Tylenol, it's your cortisone creams, it's your, it just goes on and on and on. From birth to the nursing home, literally from birth, from the minute that kid takes its first breath, jab, to the second you take your last breath, you're at a nursing home sucking down medications. Who's paying for that? Your government. Crazy, huh? You're vaccinated. These people are vaccinated from vitamin K to flu shots. It's about 80 or 85 doses now is the recommended schedule between 0, being born, and age 18. You know that, right? The recommended dosages, you're supposed to get not only the 72 stupid shots that they want everybody to get, but you get flu shot now every year as a kid. Everybody's glyphosated. What does that mean? That's all wheat and flour products. What did Weston A. Price say? All that wheat and all that flour. This was 1938. He said that. You know what? Glyphosate was not invented. Herbicides and pesticides were not invented yet. Let that sink in. He said that back in the day when people were just eating crap food. Now it's crap food sprayed with poison. So the glyphosated thing, read that as Roundup. Read that as herbicide if you don't know what that word is. It's a desiccant. It dries everything out. Similar symptoms to, guess what? Glyphosate ingestion has similar symptoms to what? Respiratory problem that everyone seems to be experiencing right now. And when you eat this crap, it gets assimilated into your tissues. So it's not like you just eat it and poo it, eat it and poo it, eat it and poo it. You eat it and it becomes you. Let that sink in for a minute. People say, oh, I just can't afford to eat healthy. You can't afford not to eat healthy. Tell you what, your biggest expense should not be on a 30-year mortgage. Your biggest expense should be on what you put in your face. Where are you going to live? What kind of house are you going to live in if you don't have a house to live in? Let that sink in. The people are cosmeticated. Sensitive mucous membranes, known carcinogens, poisons, pharmaceutical company subsidiaries are making all of your cosmetics for the most part. Food sedated. What does that mean? Well, there's preservatives, colors, fast food. Your great-grandparents would probably not recognize the food that you're eating today. If you're not a patient here, your great-grandparents would look at your ding-dongs and Hostess and Nestle and Frito-Lay and say, what in the world? What is that? What is that nonsense? And then people are irradiated from the fruits that their gases are sprayed with, from the gases that their fruits are sprayed with, to microwaves, to cell phones, to 5G, X-rays, airport backscatter radiation machines. I mean, there's just so much crap in the air now. So it is very likely that your coworkers and family members have differing views, at least in part due to the list above, because they're giving themselves a chemical lobotomy every time they eat and drink and take a shower. Effects of the above will lead to a misdiagnosis and inevitable drugging for life. Families and workplaces are in conflict over misunderstood physiology and fraudulent science. All of these things play a role. Every one of them. This is my list. This is proprietary. I came up with this. I just sat down one day and thought, why can't you get through to some people? You know, well, they spend 6 hours a day on Facebook, so they're indoctrinated. They're seeing only what somebody in a high ivory tower wants them to see. And then if you put on top of that indoctrination, all of the chemical lobotomies that we give ourselves every day, if we don't know these things, you're done. You are done. And you will not be able to change these people's minds, no matter how hard you beat on their door. You will look crazy to them, period. Here's one I came up with a little while ago. This is good. This is really good. I like this. This dude's got his crap together. Look at this. Lies will always produce destruction, disease, disorder, division, confusion, slavery, poverty, weakness, and death. Truth, however, will always produce the exact opposite. Creativity, health, order, unity, clarity, freedom, prosperity, strength, and life. So, these are the exact opposites. Lies will always produce this in your life, in society, on TV. Doesn't matter. It's a rule. Truth will always produce this. Look at our current society and tell me if we've been told truths or lies by morally corrupt and mentally depraved, psychopathic, Satan-worshiping criminals. I'll call it what it is. And no, I did not Jeffrey Epstein myself. So what's the fix? How do we fix this? Well, know your food, know your air, know your water, know your environment. Put on your big girl britches and learn some of the stuff that we're trying to teach you to save your life. People go, oh, I don't know, I can't afford natural health. Honey, I will save you a $100,000 diagnosis tomorrow. I will save you more money than you'll ever spend here. I will save you $500 a pay period. I will save you $500 a pay period on insurance premiums that get taken out of your check pre-tax. So you think you're not paying for it, but it's coming out of whose paycheck? Whose paycheck is it coming out of? I'll ask everybody, whose paycheck is it coming out of? It's coming out of your paycheck. Yet people will swear up and down that they're not paying for their health insurance when they come in here. It's coming out of whose paycheck? Theirs. Remember the first thing there? People are indoctrinated. They're thinking that they're not paying for their health care because it comes out of their paycheck pre-tax. You have to convince people that they're paying for their own health care, right? So, rapid fire timeline summary, and then we're almost done. So what's the fix? Yeah, the fix is, listen to this. The fix is know your food, know your air, know your water. There's one other thing I wanted to cover there. Oh, yeah. Go back to that. Number 2. What's the second fix? Detoxify yourself from what goes in and on your body. How do you do that? Well, there's easy ways to detoxify your body. You have 4 channels of elimination: poo, pee, breathing, and sweating. Everything that goes in your body, food, air, and water, and medications and vaccines and everything else, everything that goes in your body has to be detoxified and either built into you, nanoparticle, iron oxide, super paramagnetic crap built into your bones, or it's food built into your bones and your blood. It either gets built into you or it gets passed out with waste, right? So peeing, pooing, sweating, and breathing. Those are the 4 ways that stuff can come out of your body. Through your skin, through your gut, through your lungs, or through your kidneys. Okay? So if we have ways to speed those things up, if we can help your kidneys and your bowels and your skin and your lungs work more efficiently, and we use light, water, heat, electricity, plants, animals, my hands, chiropractic, detox, laser, all the stuff that we use here, nutrition. If we have ways to speed up your detoxification pathways and ways to open up those pathways and speed up the process, we can shave decades off of how long it would have taken you to do it alone. We can do it with pulse electromagnetic field therapy, detoxify your body from 5G radiation, heal broken bones. I mean, it's endless. We can do pulse. We could do saunas, so you detox your skin a lot faster and your gut. We can do foot spas, all that stuff. But even on top of that, we can do nutritional detoxification. So your body takes in good food and pushes out all the bad stuff. How many? 30 days? Or no, you've been here like 3 months and you lost 30 pounds. How do you feel? A lot better, right? Your brain thinks a lot clearer now. Imagine that. You're not fluoridating and glyphosating yourself to death with every bite. So detoxify yourself from what goes in. But what else did we say? Where's everybody smear all the toxic chemicals made by the pharmaceutical subsidiaries? Where do they put all that? Their hair, their skin, their eyes, their ears, all the cleaning supplies, all the cosmetics. So you got to detoxify from everything that goes in and on your body, and that is the root cause of all of this disease. All of these asylums and prisons, how much of this domestic violence and divorces would have been avoided from people understanding this and not being subjugated by the current system of ill health and profit in crappy food. So let's check this out. Rapid fire timeline. Bethlehem Royal Hospital in London was one of the first psychiatric hospitals. The asylum charged admission for public viewings. It's unbelievable. The mortality rate of treatments was extremely high. Wrapping and dunking in cold water was thought to drain the toxins out of the body. Some patients were shut up in coffins and sunk into water. Bleeding was believed to drain extra blood from the head. Benjamin Rush. Does that name ring a bell for anyone? No? Benjamin Rush invented the tranquilizer. It was a chair of confinement. That was the precursor to the electric chair, basically. And chronicled it in an 1812 textbook. He is the father of American psychiatry and appears on the APA shield. If you open up that book to the index or the copyright date, it'll have a little shield with a dude's head outlined. That's Benjamin Rush. American psychiatrist Henry Cotton removed body parts. Teeth, tonsils, sinuses. Then after no cure, stomach, spleens, and colons were removed with the theory that the patient had swallowed bacteria with their saliva. Damaging the patient was thought to be the cure. This is just the beginning. You wait till we get a little farther into this. Psychiatry continued to seek legitimacy by transforming itself into a medical discipline. Leipzig, Germany in 1879, Wilhelm Wundt taught that man was an animal without a soul. Friedrich Nietzsche, Ivan Pavlov, and others followed in his footsteps. If you've had anything from a entry-level psychology course in college to anything farther up, you've heard of these names. Pavlov used human children with holes punched through their cheeks, very famous stuff, to measure their saliva. Pavlov influenced behavioral psychology. Pavlov was the one that was saying there is no soul. These were all atheists. They were all evolutionists. They all hated God, even though atheists don't believe in God. But they hated the idea of morality, and they hated the idea of man having an eternal soul. B.F. Skinner, another famous psychiatrist, developed operant conditioning. If you know anything about psychology, you know what that is. Teaching rats to run mazes and thereby shaping behavior patterns. He invented the Skinner box, presenting children with certain stimuli in the belief that they were animals to be trained. Oh, it gets better. Aversion therapy is used in many juvenile centers, $214K a year. This generates billions in research and treatment costs. The men behind the Holocaust. You ready for this one? Eugenics began with Francis Galton. That's a very important name. 1883, saying that humans should take evolution in their hands and control it. Phony genetics were used to control population and politics. Is this getting closer to home? You seeing where we're going with this? Guess what? We're not even there yet. The eugenics movement in Germany relied upon Ernst Rudin. People think eugenics started in Germany. No, it started in the United States. Germany, Hitler loved what we were doing, and he started doing it himself. Madison Grant of America inspired Hitler, who hailed eugenics as the science that would rebuild civilization. The Nazi program could fund the eugenic movement, and they justified each other. 40% of German doctors joined the SS by 1933. Rudin helped inspire the movement from sterilization to murder. Jehovah's Witnesses, Jews, gypsies, homosexuals, cripples, and mentally ill were all targeted. And these are the same people who are pulling for abortion in the United States are the same people who were murdered by this science 80 years ago. Interesting, huh? After the Nazi surrender, American psychiatrists stepped in, fearing a permanent blow to the future of psychiatry, to shift the blame to only a few doctors. Most German psychiatric eugenicists went to work in Germany or the United States. This field was responsible for the murder of 11 million people. Why do all your pharmaceutical companies have German names? Pfizer, Merck, Glaxo. A new eugenics movement started after World War II. Operation Paperclip is what you want to look up if you want to look into that. Operation Paperclip. What happened to all those Nazi scientists? Where'd all those Nazi scientists go? We didn't kill them. They were too smart. We had to use that technology. Ship them over here. Put them in charge of Pfizer. Put them in charge of Merck. They're the people making the vaccines, people. Jesus. Wake up. A new eugenics movement started after World War II. After slavery had been abolished, Samuel Cartwright and Benjamin Rush continued to justify segregation as a medical necessity. Benjamin Rush. They called the desire to run away drapetomania, a mental disorder. Psychiatric racism continued through the KKK. Harry Laughlin was the Carnegie Institute director of eugenics. Carnegie Institute, as in Carnegie Mellon University, as in Dale Carnegie, as in Andrew Carnegie, right? In South Africa, apartheid was started by the Prime Minister, Dr. Hendrik Verwoerd, who studied eugenics in Leipzig, Germany in the 1920s. Did you know apartheid was based on psychiatry? No, I know it, right? Insulin wards and coma therapy became big business despite spinal cord injuries in 40% of patients. Metrazole induced epileptic seizures to drive out the schizophrenia in patients. Controlled electric current, electroshock therapy. I have patients who've been through electroshock. Started in Italy in 1938 when two psychiatrists witnessed electrodes placed on pigs' temples to stun them, making slaughtering much easier. This inspired them to use it on humans. I mean, these people are sick. You can't make this up. These people are sick. When you hear people say, I went in for ECT, here it is. Electroconvulsive therapy is what ECT is. Vermont in 1848. Anybody who's ever studied human anatomy, here's this story written in your textbooks. Phineas Gage caught a railroad spike through the orbit up into the brain. It changed his personality. It made him from a very quiet person into a raucous, profane brawler. Phineas Gage. Look it up on the internet. This is widely known. So in Vermont in 1848, Phineas Gage inspired frontal lobotomies. So they did the exact opposite. They said, well, if a railroad spike into the eye, they actually have a skull on display. You can see it's sticking right through. It's in the textbooks. They figured, what if we did the opposite? What if we went in and just kind of took a needle behind the eyeball and went up into the brain and pushed it around and scrambled it? We gave somebody, that's what a frontal lobotomy is. It's a lobotomy, a lobotomy, meaning holes in the lobe, frontal lobe, otomy. You remove part of the frontal lobe. That's what a frontal lobotomy is. Not to be confused with a bottle in front of me, but they do have the same effect in most cases. Vermont, Walter Freeman discovered how to do lobotomies much faster by using an ice pick behind the eye to disrupt brain tissue. He drove a lobotomobile around the country. If you hop on the internet and look for this, you'll find pictures of it. He performed over 3,500 lobotomies, leaving people in a vegetative state. People paid him to do this. This is real science. This is real medicine, people. This is real, these are the roots of your pharmakia demon-worshipping healthcare in this country. Lobotomies. People would pay this dude to lobotomize their kids. Look it up. Walter Freeman. Just type in Walter Freeman lobotomobile. You'll be blown away. He's in the textbooks. He's in the medical textbooks. Psychiatrists lobotomized 1 million people in 1940 to 1960. Psychosurgery now calls electroshock, what did I say? ECT, which produces 15 to 400 volts. Oh, it's a trip. You should do it. 2/3 of ECT patients are women with postpartum depression or menstrual disorders. Because you know PMS, premenstrual syndrome, that's a psychiatric disorder, right? Did you know that? Yes. Half of ECT patients are elderly. Check this out. At age 65, 360% more U.S. patients get ECT than at age 64. Now, why would that be?
Insurance.
Medicare. Murder care. For a total of $12 worth of electricity, U.S. psychiatrists rake in $5 billion. For the love of money is the root of all evil. A chemical to kill parasites in pigs, thorazine, some of you may be familiar with this, was touted in 1947-1948 as a less messy lobotomy. Patients were not told that this led to tardive dyskinesia. Tardive dyskinesia, you want to know what that is? Tardive dyskinesia is where your limbs wriggle like a snake. Like you can't walk straight. You have no inhibition of your musculature in your trunk or legs or arms. You would watch these people ride like a snake on the ground. It can be stopped instantly like that. There's a way to stop it. But right here, thorazine's maker, SmithKline and French, remember GlaxoSmithKline? GlaxoSmithKline, that's a pharmaceutical company. Pulled in $6.6 billion in the first year. I'm surprised it's not $6.66 billion in the first year, but let's just keep going. I digress. By 1970, the American Psychiatric Association collected 30% of its annual budget from big pharma ads in its official journals. This is not on TV. This is in the medical journals that go to the doctors in their mailboxes at the hospital. So they're pulling in a lot of money. The National Institute of Mental Health and the National Institute of Health Scientists are getting more money from drug companies on the side than from their tax-based salaries. They needed a scientific theory to justify all mental problems resulted from a chemical imbalance. There's no chemical test proving this. 1997, Big Pharma persuaded the FDA to allow marketing directly to the consumer. 1997. Those drug commercials were not allowed on TV before that time. You remember this, right? You didn't see 27 pharmaceutical ads during the commercials in between every break until 1997. Violence. Oh, and what are you not seeing on TV nowadays? Car commercials. Wonder why, right? Violence, self-mutilation, and death eventually appeared. Mark, no car commercials. You figured that one out? Yeah. Violence, self-mutilation, and death eventually appeared so often that investigations were launched. There was an unholy alliance between the FDA, Big Pharma, and the psychiatric industry. Novartis, Eli Lilly, Merck, Pfizer, Glaxo. What nationality are all those names? German. Etc. Within 3 years, sales of psychiatric drugs went up 2.5 times. You are relying on demon-worshipping Nazi occult medicine. That's what that said. Over 8% of the world's population has now taken psychiatric drugs, earning over $27 billion per year. Let's keep going. Patients going to medical doctors always have the right to refuse treatment. Involuntary commitment is a term used only in psychiatry. It remains the most effective and profitable method of filling psychiatric institutions. A mental hospital is really a prison. Medical doctors do not lock anyone up, only psychiatrists do. Involuntary commitment is also Executive Order 83, what Bill Lee signed into law in Tennessee on August 6th. Involuntary commitment means they can call you on your phone, say, yo, you get the vax? You say, nope. They say, well, we'll be right there. Stay where you're at. Involuntary commitment. What does involuntary commitment mean? If they call you on the phone and you say, nope, didn't get it, not gonna get it. Involuntary commitment means this. They can put you in an institution. We'll talk about that in 2 weeks at Diseases That Don't Exist. We're going to cover the whole executive order that Bill Lee signed, Governor Bill Lee signed. Once committed, patients are drugged and restrained. Psychiatric staff bill who? Insurance companies for restrained patients. Up to $1,600 per day. Restraint leads to documented reasons to continue treatment, kind of like ventilators and respiratory problems today. Treatment of senior citizens in mental institutions costs private and government insurance over $29 billion per year. They're often released when the insurance runs out. You know, when you see silver alerts, sometimes that's what it is. Or when you see homeless people on the street, what happened? They were locked up in here, and then insurance ran out, and they kicked them out. Yep. Every 75 seconds, someone in America is committed against his or her will. Remember, these statistics are 10 years old. Overbilling, misdiagnosis, and insurance fraud are often discovered with psychiatric institutions. Of all medical disciplines, psychiatry has the worst record of fraud and abuse. Get this, accounting for 6% of physicians, psychiatrists commit 1/3 of sex-related offenses committed by doctors. You still want your kids going to that therapist? This is widely known. Insurance malpractice, insurance providers started writing them out of, we're not covering for this and this and this. I mean, 6% of the doctors commit 1/3 of the sexually related crimes. By the mid-'80s, insurance companies began writing sexual claims out of their policies. Oh, I got ahead of myself. Their crimes often involve children. I wonder why pedophilia is getting taken out of that book. Next, chemical imbalance, depression, borderline personality, sleep disorder, ADD, conduct, social anxiety disorder. There's no such thing as a mental disorder. It's whatever someone else says it is. Psychiatry manufactures its own. The diagnostic, the DSM, contains no stats. It's not science. It now contains 374. Anyone walking down the street can fit, arguing with your mother, peeing the bed, adolescent rebellion disorder, arithmetic learning disorder. If you don't like math, that's it. ALD. There are no laboratory tests, biological markers, or biopsies for any disease. There are no ways to document improvements. We talked about, that's important. There's no way to document improvements. You know what? If you go to a doctor and you have depression, and then a year later you're still taking the same drug, they're not asking you, there's no way to document improvements. How do we document improvements here? Every day, every symptom, you come in and we notate it according to your level of 0 to 10. DSM has grown 10 times its original size compared to pathology for structural microscopic tests to identify or classify disease. There's no study of the body, matter, or tissue. These diseases are decided upon and voted upon. The APA updates let Big Pharma develop a pill for everything. 56% of all psychiatrists deciding what to list in the DSM have financial ties to Big Pharma. You heard that in the video. Psychiatry's latest ploy, brain scans, to fool the public, still shows nothing but changes in function between different people. If you haven't seen those, you will. Check this one out. 450 million people worldwide are labeled mentally ill. This was 10 years ago. That is the entire population of France, Italy, Germany, Canada, Australia, the UK, and Russia combined. You see what's going on in Australia right now? Canada right now? You want to know? These people are fluoridated, medicated, glyphosated, vaccinated. In Australia last week, they rounded up 24,000 kids and took them into an arena and vaccinated all of them without the parents being present. It's unbelievable. Over $27 billion annually in drug sales means that psychiatric funding from world governments brings in $440 billion a year. These are grossly underestimated statistics from 10 years ago. Next. G. Brock Chisholm, the co-founder of the World Federation for Mental Health, authored the idea of social control in schools in the 1950s. It has turned schools into mental health clinics rather than places of learning. We got any teachers in here? Anybody? Anybody a teacher? All right. By 65, it was written into law that psychiatrists would be present in schools. You wondering why your kids get diagnosed with ADD? Wonder. Check this out. The diagnosis of ADD went into full swing in 1987. Within 1 year, 500,000 U.S. children were labeled. 7 years later, that number had soared to 4.4 million. It became an epidemic of mental illness, with the U.S. government's National Institute of Health attempting to explain what ADHD is. There is no diagnostic test. 2 years later, 6 million were diagnosed. 20 million are now diagnosed. This stat's 10 years old. Makes you sick, doesn't it? Medications are the real gateway drugs. Stimulants given to a disruptive child will make that child more disruptive. Psychiatric drugs overshadow most, if not all, school shootings. We talked about that a little bit. I'm just running through an entire timeline. Since 1970, the U.S. has fallen from 9th to 28th place in worldwide academic standing. Within the same time, the sales of ADHD drugs have multiplied 32 times. In the U.S., 20 million children are now labeled 20 million children are now labeled with learning disorders. You want to know why so many schools exist for autism spectrum disorder kids? Here it is. Psychiatry, in 100 years, has infiltrated every sector of our society. The master plan, here's what their master plan is. and this was from a long time ago. This is from late 1800s, I want to say. We must aim to make it, psychiatry, permeate every educational activity in our national life. Public life, politics, and industry should all of them be within our sphere of influence. We've made a useful attack upon a number of professions. The two easiest of them, naturally, are the teaching profession and the church. The most difficult are law and medicine. So your churches and your schools are inundated by this. Your medical and law fields were a little tougher, but they're deep. They're deep. The tentacles are deep. And that's a British psychiatrist named Colonel J.R. Rees. To achieve world government, it's necessary to remove from the minds of men their individualism, loyalty to family traditions, national patriotism, and religious dogmas. That was G. Brock Chisholm, co-founder of the World Federation for Mental Health. What is that? That sounds like something today, doesn't it? That sounds like exactly what they're doing. So who's really running this whole program? American psychiatrists convinced the U.S. Congress that mental health was a matter of national security and that only they could solve it, but they needed funding. Government expenditures went from $1 million in 46 to $1.4 billion today, an increase of 139,000%. Interesting. Crisis after crisis exhibits the handiwork of psychiatrists. We're almost done. Check this out. You never thought about this, did you? Serbian psychiatrist Jovan Raskovic demanded the ethnic cleansing of Croats and Muslims because of his firm belief in their racial inferiority. Evolution, atheism, Nazism, the same spirit. The result, Bosnia in the 90s, where Raskovic's colleague, psychiatrist Radovan Karadzic, and Prime Minister Slobodan Milosevic, those names should sound familiar, established Balkan concentration camps where the mass torture, rape, and murder of the innocent happened once more. Those names should sound familiar. We won't go into a history lesson if you don't know that. With classical Pavlovian conditioning and modern-day mind control techniques, psychiatrists and psychologists can turn average men or children into mass murderers. This is how terrorists are created. The acknowledged commander of al-Qaeda and brain trust behind the 9/11 attacks was Ayman al-Zawahiri, educated in psychology and pharmacology at the University of Cairo. He also authored the al-Qaeda training manual on the use of coercive psychiatry. Abu Hafiza, another al-Qaeda operative, orchestrated the bombings in Madrid. You remember those? What greater weapon could there be than the control of the human mind? Controlling a mind is much easier than controlling a life. Social control is the primary agenda of psychology and psychiatry. The national government is wanting to test every child in the school system. The man behind the Teen Screen program is Dr. David Schaffer, consultant to the U.S. Department of Defense. Why is he involved? Psychiatry has always been the application of force against those who resist. And finally, in the words of Thomas Saz, Dr. Thomas Saz, we have no epidemic of mental illness, we have an epidemic of psychiatry. Now, I think, let's do commercial break, and then I'll throw down on a couple things about the military. You still got a few minutes? Talk about veterans? Come on up.
Well, how do you follow that? All right. This one says, within 15 days, I have felt a significant decrease in my depression and anxiety. In fact, I am in the process of building a home and a week out from closing with virtually zero anxiety. Now, that's impressive. I feel mental clarity, increased energy, and an overall more positive and confident disposition. I am also a mental health professional who has found the value in nutrition and healthy emotional health.
What does that tell you? Mental health people come here, therapists, counselors, and they don't know the basics of what makes your brain run. If you can eat the right things and nurse your body back to health and get to this level where you don't have to be worried about cancer, you don't have to be anxious about this or that, you can actually get in your car and drive on the highway without having fear. This is very valuable to mental health people because they realize in their field that no one's taught them this. No one's taught them this. All right, let's check this out. The land of the free and home of the brave fit right in with the title of today. Voluntarily shut down for almost an entire year because they were afraid. I'm disgusted. I really am. By the churches, by everything. Take the vaccine, lose your driver's license. Yep. That's Nadia right there. I'm behind. Therapist. Is she crazy? Dude, she cooked all my food without seasoning to make me think I had COVID. Oh, it's a clown show, man. You can't make this crap up. Did you get the vaccine yet? Nope, they're still testing it on the humans. Unbelievable. So a couple of quick things here. I put this class together, or at least the basics of this class together, like along, I guess maybe 3 or 4 years ago, because I was so infuriated by watching our veterans not only kill themselves at a breakneck speed, but if they got older and they actually made it through their service time, then they would come here and relate to me the horrors of the VA. And among soldiers, they say that there's 2 ways to die for your country. One is on the battlefield, and the second is at the VA. Because the care is so horrendous, and the drugging is so ubiquitous and so complete, that I've seen so many people come through here, and they bring me these stories of the VA, and then I put it together with all the stuff years ago of veterans just not being able to handle it anymore. And I started coming across these stories of people who would blow their heads off, and they were never deployed. And I thought, what is going on? How is this PTSD? Well, I realized PTSD is one of the things in that book. It's made up. Are they experiencing trauma from previous things? They could, yeah. If they were in wartime, like I said, thousands of years ago, it was called battle fatigue. You're marching, you're not eating. Somebody comes down off a cliff, a whole battalion of people come down and attack your company. Yeah, you're going to have nightmares about that. Yeah, absolutely. You walk into a burning village and see women and children just hacked to bits. You're probably going to have some nightmares. Absolutely. Not to belittle that. But what I'm saying is some of these people have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Anything that ends with the words disorder, dysfunction, erectile dysfunction, something syndrome. You can bet your bottom dollar that most of them are in that book. But post-traumatic stress disorder, it didn't define that everybody that did this was in war. They were in wartime. No, what you found was they started diagnosing somebody who had, domestic violence. They started diagnosing women with post-traumatic stress disorder. They started diagnosing little kids who got in a fight on the playground as post-traumatic stress disorder, leading to a lifetime of what? Drugging. So I started looking into it. Here's some stuff I found. The most dangerous enemy is the one that you never suspect. Psychiatrists, they needed a perfect proving ground with an unlimited budget, an endless supply of human resources, where every order is obeyed without question, and where any collateral damage could simply be labeled classified. That's the military. So I put this together in a class a long time ago, and since we've got a couple minutes, I think I'll cover a couple points of it. From 2005 to 2011, the U.S. Department of Defense increased its prescriptions of psychiatric drugs by 7 times, which is 30 times faster than civilians. So if you've got friends or family members who are in the military and they've got problems, you might want to ask them, talk to me afterwards. I'll tell you some things that you can do, places you can go, resources for you. Just want to read you a couple more things. Think about it this way. They're supposed to be highly trained, elite fighting machines, and we're drugging them, harming their bodies and minds. I mean, we spend a lot of money training these people, right? We're chemically lobotomizing our soldiers, and we're giving mind-altering drugs to people with guns. Very interesting. Suicide rate doubled from 2002. More soldiers died by suicide, get this, from 2009 to 2012. More U.S. soldiers died by suicide than by traffic accidents, cancer, heart disease, and homicide combined. Some say it's due to the horrors all of war, but 85% of military suicides never saw combat, and 52% never even deployed. That should make you sick. So what's happening to all these guys? They're on a lot of medications. And then what happens? Heavy-duty, really burly dudes who go into the military, might they drink alcohol? Might antidepressants and anxiety drugs, wildly known to interact with alcohol in a big way, might they be taking some prescriptions and then the alcohol interact? Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Absolutely. People that I know who have flipped out from taking antidepressant and just having a glass of wine, and they can't control themselves. I've seen it many times in my life. It's crazy. Literally, it's crazy. I don't mean that in a bad way. That's it. That's all I want to cover. That's really it. We could go on. There were just a couple of facts I wanted to get out of there, out of that veteran part. All right. Questions, comments, thoughts, cries of outrage, anything before we close? Brittany, what's one thing you learned?
I actually borrowed one of the DVDs, and a lot of this information is like kind of a refresher on that.
Mm-hmm.
But even though I literally watched it yesterday.
Oh, okay.
But even though I had just seen it, there are so many things that it's like I'm just sitting here shaking my head, going, "How is this possible?"
Right. Me too.
Like,
How's it possible?
Literally torturing people and
Yep.
literally torturing people and changing their lives for forever. Like,
Literally. Yep.
It's
literally
maddening.
maddening.
It's crazy.
Welcome to my world. Absolutely. So that's why I get so passionate and so torqued up about this, because I see what's happening out there. I go to the store and I see people pushing their wheelbarrow of death in front of them and not knowing that everything in that cart is what's causing their problems. The reason they can't walk is because of what was in that cart a year ago. And it drives me crazy. And then I see them get into a car with a handicap sticker hanging from like a badge of honor, and it makes me, yeah. But then you take it this level, you take it to the kids, you take it to, the women and the children and the kids, and you take it to the veterans. It makes me crazy. Literally. All the craziness makes me crazy. What else? Lance, what did you learn?
I got in about knowing your food, and knowing what your food is, making sure that it's clean food, clean air, and clean water that we're putting in our bodies.
Right. So you're saying those things could contribute to some of these mental deals that people are going through?
Yeah, I can see that in my own family.
Yep.
The food that they're eating and
yep.
the medications they're on.
Yep. All day.
Very difficult to watch.
Absolutely. Right. And the only way to fix it is to start talking to people. The only way, by the way, we're never getting out of this COVID nonsense. It's never happening. People, as long as that TV is on in people's homes 24/7, they're never gonna buck that. Especially now that they've invested hundreds of millions of dollars in sneeze guards and stickers on the floor. Nobody's taking that down. They've already invested in all of this across the world. They're not going to take it down. They're not going to admit, first of all, they're not going to admit they're wrong. They're not going to admit that they've been deceived. Huh? Bamboozled. Yeah, nobody's going to admit that. I mean, we didn't fall for it since day one. We knew it was crap, but here we are.
There's got to be a boogeyman.
Yep. Everybody's got to be afraid of some virus that, has never been isolated. Everybody's got to be afraid. Brittany, they want you afraid. Stress.
Just kind of comment on what you were saying, talking about making stuff up, because that's essentially what's happening. I mean,
it's fiction.
Yeah, but they're making all these different diagnoses for the mental things, but they're already doing that with psychiatry. Why wouldn't they continue doing that with COVID?
Correct. Right. Yeah, they've got COVID pneumonia, they've got long COVID, they've got short COVID, they've got the Delta, Beta, Alpha, Gamma, Tau nonsense.
Second thing I wanted to comment on, whenever you pulled up the drugs.com and put in Xanax, I guess it was.
Xanax, yeah.
The very first thing that popped up at the top of the page, it was an ad. Did you notice what that ad was for?
I didn't notice. What was it?
It was for...
crappy food, probably.
No, it was for drug addiction.
Perfect. I didn't even notice it. I was kind of paying too much attention to other stuff. But yeah, if you just sit back every once in a while and look at things. I found it so interesting that one time, I don't do this very often, but I was hopping on Facebook just to see how our stuff looked. And there was on Facebook, during one of my wellness workshops, over on the side, it was advertising fast food. I was blown away. I thought, how many people wouldn't even notice that? I was just watching it just for poops and giggles, and I thought, oh wow, I wonder how often that shows up. Or no, it might have been YouTube. Maybe the commercials in the middle of YouTube. I can't remember exactly, but it was social media before YouTube canned us. But it was advertising food, fast food, during something, and I think it was pretty much like a healthy food, what to eat class. I was furious. It's everywhere. But if you just sit back and wonder, whatever happened to drunk driving? The good old days. Whatever happened? Where'd the car commercials go? Whatever happened, right?
Where did they go?
They can't make cars. We're relying on microchips that got shut down from what country?
China.
Right? One dude in a port had the sniffles, and they said, oh, we can't ship anything to the United States. Interesting, huh? And so you're not going to advertise cars on TV if you don't have cars. That would just be like shooting yourself in both foot and running a marathon. That would be stupid. So at least somebody caught that. But no, your cars, no car commercials. Interesting. I mean, there were like Lexus commercials and stuff, but not Toyota and Volkswagen. There weren't like Chevy and well, I went away for the weekend, and hardly ever do I do this, but I just want to watch how the other half, what are people watching? So I turn on, what do I turn on? The Devil Vision. Yes, but what channel on the Devil Vision? CNN. I wanted to see, because that's what they have in all the airports. That's what they have in all the restaurants. That's what I just want to see. Like, what kind of script are they reading from? And of course, you watch the commercials, and it's all pharmaceuticals, and it's just, silly. But I noticed you don't see any cars. Interesting. So it's good to do that every once in a while, just to see how deep is the deception. Every commercial, everybody was masked, wearing a diaper on their face. Everything was get your vaccine, get your vaccine, get your vaccine. It was just comical. It was unreal. So I teach these classes so that you guys, I don't make squat. You know this? Like, I spent my weekend putting this crap together, and worked a 10-hour day today, and then I stood up here for 2 hours. So we don't make anything on these classes. What we do is we give you free information so that you can get out there and save your family's lives. Save your kids and your grandkids. Save your aunts and uncles and cousins, because they're being murdered. And if it's never been obvious to you before that medicine and healthcare and pharmaceuticals and insurance and your government, all of them together, boom, that's a fist in your face. If it's never been clear to you before that they're working in concert to destroy you, let this year be your wake-up call. Come out of the haze like a locomotive out of a tunnel and say, oh my God, what do we do? Because we're already in the bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, bases loaded, We're already in the home stretch. So it's time everybody wake up as much as they can. What else? What'd you learn? Jacqueline? No such thing as a chemical imbalance. Randy, what'd you learn?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Oh, is it really? Yeah. Well, I'll ask you another one. What did you not learn? It's a tough question. How about you, buddy? What'd you learn?
I didn't realize how many disorders are in the DSM-4. I knew the stuff changed in DSM-5, but
yep,
almost 400?
374, I believe. Yeah, about almost 1,000 pages. Yeah. What? Yes, Annabelle. What'd you learn, darling?
Well, a lot of things. I thought that I had OCD for many years.
You thought you had OCD for many years?
Yes, and I'm psychology.
You have a master's in psychology,
yes.
right?
Yes, so I had to read this book.
You had to read that book?
Yes.
The DSM?
Yes.
You had to read that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Ugh.
to treat the patients.
Wow.
And I was looking for an answer to treat my OCD because it was insane. Now I'm feeling a lot better. A lot.
Really?
Yes.
What'd you do differently?
The supplements and nutrition.
Balances out your brain, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't have idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like nobody told me.
Yeah, nobody told you this. So psychology, master's degree in psychology in Mexico. Yes. Did you ever study nutrition? Did they
Never.
ever tell you? Like your neurotransmitters come from what you eat, right? Simple. Fats,
Yes.
protein. You never studied that?
No.
Yeah. Interesting. Master's degree in psychology. I just figured that out today. We were talking, I was telling her what tonight's about. And she said, oh, I got a master's degree in psychology. What? I had no idea. Wow, okay. Excellent. All right, let's give some free stuff away. we're signing off. Next week, we've got a mystery speaker panel discussion. I can never say that. I have to make a better name for these classes. Mystery speaker panel discussion. Next week, there'll be 3 other people here talking besides me. I'll be kind of, emceeing the whole thing and just going from person to person, asking very interesting questions about very interesting topics. If you know anything about ever wanting kids, babies, if you've ever been a baby, if you know anyone with babies, if you know anyone with kids, if you've ever been a kid, if you ever want to have kids, you might want to be here so that you understand what's happening. That's all I'm going to say for now. And then from 2 weeks from now is diseases that don't exist. So we will see you then. We are signing off. I'm Dr. Brett Spradlin, Divine Design Natural Health, Crazy Crowd. Talk to you later. Randy Bales, free stuff.